Arsenal have won their first game of the Champions League this season. But judging off of comments such as these, it would suggest that Arsenal had a really poor game. But I'm here to tell you that we didn't. We found solutions to mid blocks that we haven't had in the past, thanks to the profiles of Martin Zubimendi, but also the intentions of Mikel Arteta to play a lot quicker and carry the ball through the centre. Arsenal were able to turn a tricky night away to Spain into a really, really good result. But before I begin, if you are new here, please do hit the subscribe and the like, but let's delve into the analysis. So yeah, I think the best place to sort of start is in terms of the lineup. There was a lot of talk between Arsenal fans. Is Marino starting the right thing? Should we rotate it a lot more? But I think it's early days in the season in terms of rotation, and I'll always maintain this. We're at a point now where whoever starts, unless it's the biggest of games, so Manchester City at the weekend, away at Old Trafford, we're at that point now where we can trust anyone in the lineup. So if it was Ethan starting, Marino starting, it doesn't matter. I think Mikel Arteta is now, like I've said, picking lineups based on mental, emotional, physical and psychological points that we as fans can't see or don't have enough data on. So I feel as though this lineup was quite strong, very strong indeed, and it needed to be this strong. And I think when we see how the way in terms of the game panned out, I think most Arsenal fans can now sort of step back and be like, Marino made sense in terms of the atmosphere and the occasion and all of those things that we don't really think about instead of, just pure footballing talent. But yeah, let us get straight into it. And I want to start, to be honest, with the second half, because I think the first half was pretty stale and pretty what we know already when Arsenal face these mid-blocks. We kind of struggle to find these solutions. We a bit slow, a bit poor on the ball when the opposition is really strong on us. In the UCL, you're going to face a lot of these mid-blocks. So I don't think I learned enough for me to put stuff forward. There's obviously a nice chance for Eze where he was a bit slow to react, getting, Madueke in a nice 1v1 situation. There was obviously Gyökeres where he could have gone 1v1 and defender caught up to him. But those things aren't really worthy of the analysis. I think what is the different ways that Arsenal in the second half managed to find solutions. So I want to start here in terms of Martin Zubimendi on the ball. And it's quite interesting here. His initial whereabouts in terms of where he's looking is, of course, to the right-hand side. There's obviously the access to Marino, which is being blocked off. And this is what happens when you play these mid-blocks. Really aggressive. They try to get really on the front foot, really ready to attack at any point in which you try and play it forward. There's a player ready from the midfield to press on you. But I feel as though Zubimendi is such a master at this in terms of manipulating the ball and creating his own angles. Because as we progress this, you can see him. He turns quickly. And Bilbao do not adapt to this turn, and the space that wasn't there for Declan Rice to receive opens up. He's completely confused this Atletico Bilbao midfielder or attacking midfielder or number 9 really in this 4-4-2 press that most teams normally go with. He's confused. He doesn't know how he can press on. Should he sit off? From this situation where Declan Rice is completely closed off, that little turn opens up the angles, and that is the mastery of Martin Zubimendi. Obviously the ball does go into Declan Rice, and this is another thing which I feel as though Arsenal, when we placed mid-blocks last season, we didn't do this enough. And this is those small distant carries, and there's many examples of this, especially in the second half, of Declan Rice small distant carries and it opening up the game. And with Eze as well, I must say this, there's a lot of scrutiny in terms of Eze playing left wing. But when he did receive the ball and he came inside, those carries were invaluable. He managed to progress the ball really, really well. So I think that's a lesson for Mikel Arteta, that to destroy these mid-blocks, those small distant carries are so important. And the players that can do that is your Eze's, is your Declan Rice's, and from those wide areas, it's your Madueke's once you create the space for them. And I think in the second half, we did that really well. So Declan Rice carries into that space. Really, really good carry from him. Here he is here. Then we know what happens next. He gives the ball in to the run of Riccardo Calafiori, who again, Calafiori has been so good at this season, just finding these pockets of space between that left-hand side. He's even on the right-hand side at times, but he's really good at finding those solutions. And here he is, obviously, ghosting him behind. And that's another thing when you play these aggressive mid-blocks, is there's opportunities for runners behind or off the midfield, but you've got to get the timing right. And I think Calafiori, this occasion, got that timing so right. But you know what I said? It all comes from a small distant carry from Declan Rice, and then Calafiori is able to enter this space, which has been created by a little movement again from Eze from the left wing. Look there, the defender has to focus on Eze's movement, and I think Eze didn't do this enough in terms of faking to go in behind but coming short. Here he did. It opened up an avenue. Declan Rice came in. Defenders now occupied with Eze. Calafiori runs in behind. So in this small instance, of course, the ball gets back to Eze and he wins a free kick in this sort of area. So I think, again, in that instance, we've learned Arsenal creating solutions, Martin Zubimendi creating passing angles for himself, which we didn't see last season because we didn't have that profile. Then Declan Rice, small distant carries. He's obviously a bit deeper, so he feels more confident to carry into those spaces. And I think that's the good thing about Declan Rice being slightly in the pivot rather than higher up the pitch. He can do those small distant carries really well, and he's more confident doing it. And then, of course, that little movement from Eze, faking to go in behind, then coming short, created the space for Ricardo Calafiori to go inside. He gives it back to Eze, and Eze draws a free kick. So that's a really, really good example of Arsenal creating solutions for themselves against an aggressive mid-block. And in the end, this free kick actually created a really nice opportunity for Gyökeres. Very unlucky with the header. But look, we were able to generate a chance for ourselves by doing different things that we didn't see from Arsenal last season against these mid-block small distant carries. Zubimendi creating passing angles, Eze faking to go in behind then coming short, Calafiori then running beyond the midfielders once they press onto Eze's little movement, and then we draw a free kick and a foul. Really, really like that. Here, of course, is another example of Arsenal creating their own solutions against these mid-blocks. And this is why I think the second half was really, really good in absorbing information on how Arsenal plan to really get at these mid-blocks. And obviously in this situation, Bilbao are so hard in terms of the way they like to defend in this mid-block. They're just ready to get on you. And I think this is really important, which I must mention. And Bilbao, for me, they're almost like the Basque or the Spanish Newcastle United in terms of the way they play. This game is like Arsenal going to St. James's Park and finding the solutions in the second half. And I feel like this game is going to give much confidence to Arteta heading to St. James's Park on how we manage to find solutions. You know, it's really, really important. But yeah, from this sequence, we see Gabriel on the ball. He finds a ball into into Mosquera, who's in this space. And it's simple. The game opens up, you know, in terms of a Gabriel simple ball across towards Mosquera. He can find Timber in here. And I think this is what is really, really intelligent now. What I really liked from this situation is this lovely little triangle formed between these guys. You know, it really makes it confusing because that simple pass quickly from Gabriel, that side, into Mosquera, quickly into Timber. If you're moving the ball quickly, it gives more time for players to make off-the-ball runs and runs off of those aggressive mid-block midfielders. And this is what we're seeing here with Mikel Merino. This whole space is his. He's ghosting into this space. And this is why I sort of get frustrated when people say Mikel Merino is a defensive midfielder. These off-the-ball runs, which he did provide many times in the second half, are not things you see from a defensive midfielder. His knowledge of the space is really good. And in the end, Timber does find the ball into the feet of into Merino, who's in this space. And then it's up to him to now find the solutions. And I think that's probably where Arsenal fans can be frustrated. But that initial off-the-ball stuff, it's second to none. Not many players can really do that within the Arsenal squad anyway. And Merino does receive the ball in that little pocket, and he was obviously pressed onto, as you do when you're playing this aggressive mid-block structure, as Atletico Bilbao were. But this is what I really liked. It's the run from Gyökeres stretching the defence. And I did talk about this a lot before we signed Gyökeres, in the sense that he's able to stretch those defensive. Once we get past the first and second line of press of Bilbao, now Gyökeres has to be on his bike. And that's what he was doing more in the second half. He was more on his bike. I do mention the first opportunity that he had in the first half where, you know, he probably should have kept the ball better running towards goal. But he knows, I'm going to now spin you as a defender and move you backwards. And this is a solution Arsenal didn't have going into last season. And obviously in the end, Gyökeres, it was a really nice layoff into Madueke. And look where Arsenal were able to go in terms of into the box. Madueke all the way. And it's unlucky. It's the one where he should have probably used his right foot to put it in the box. He used his left foot. But again, we're seeing Arsenal finding solutions against mid-blocks that we haven't had before. And this is a massive, massive positive. So the ball starting from Gabriel. We see how Bilbao are pressing really heavy in terms of on the right-hand side. A simple ball across goal into Timber there from Mosquera. Merino's off the ball movement as Bilbao again try from the left hand side this time to press us in, and we're away quickly into the feet of Gyökeres. He gives it to Madueke and we create a really dangerous opportunity for us. So that's a solution again that Arsenal found in the second half. We adapted, we evolved. It was really, really nice for me to see. And here is another example of Arsenal finding solutions. And this one actually didn't come off from Zubimendi, but the intention is really, really good. I loved the intention from Zubimendi once he received this ball from Noni Madueke into his feet. Look what his first instinct is. Once he receives, he wants to play this ball into this space. And it's that courageous passing, the ability to try and find those penetrative passes that we didn't quite have. And Zubimendi providing that was really, really nice. Madueke's awareness to be a runner. That's his profile. He likes to run in behind. He likes to create these solutions. And obviously, like I said, does get it cut out. But the hunger from Arsenal to win this ball back was really nice to see. And it was Mikel Merino who did it, who again is being scapegoated a lot by Arsenal fans for his performance. But I think he was really mature off and on the ball. His space awareness and when to win the ball. It showed why we needed him today in terms of this sort of game that Bilbao wanted to play. He does win it, plays it into Zubimendi. But again, it's that sort of really, really nice triangle that Arsenal have created off the right-hand side here. Whether it's Madueke in there, whether it's Timber in there, Arsenal are rotating. It doesn't matter who's occupying a space. All that matters is that somebody is in that space. A fluid Arsenal was really on show. Zubimendi does play it in the feet of Madueke. Madueke then turns really nicely. It was such a nice turn, this one. Such a shame I can't show you clips. But he takes it to a wider position. And you know what that does? It then creates space in the middle. That's what really, really good players do. The awareness of Madueke, of what's behind him, not to drive into Timber's space, is really, really smart. And these are the solutions that we didn't have going in to last season. And as we see this progress, you'll see what Madueke does. A really, really intelligent ball into Timber, into this area. And that's all you can ask for. Arsenal having players occupying spaces where they can receive. Timber receives it, and I think it's pretty obvious what happens. And this is what I mean with solutions. Gyökeres making runs as soon as the space is there. Look, our job is to create situations that Gyökeres knows to make a run. And this is what we did once again in the second half. We also had Madueke running in there, which was really nice. I think Timber did in the end play a ball into the path of Madueke. And yes, it doesn't come to anything in the end, but it's that intention to be able to create this scenario against a mid-block, against an aggressive team that we didn't see as much going into last season. And that's a massive positive for Mikel Arteta. And as we see, it fizzles out. Now I want to talk about in terms of the positions we were getting our attacking players into. I think it was quite underrated in the sense that Arsenal fans didn't quite recognise how many situations 1v1 again we created for Noni Madueke and Eze and others as they came on Martinelli too. Here is Madueke, 1v1, all come from a pass from Timber to set him up here. This is a dream. Mikel Arteta's job is done here. If Madueke doesn't make the most of these situations, that's on Madueke, that's not on Arteta. But we saw that Madueke really is aggressive in terms of his 1v1 ability. He does get to the byline and doesn't come to anything. But the intention is there to play it quicker into our wingers. And I think Timber did that in the second half. He was playing a lot quicker into Madueke. Here's another example, and it's Zubimendi receiving again in this space. As you can see, how good is Zubimendi? The amount of examples I have of him. He's facing the play, and this is what I really, really like. The intention to quickly play the switch. And in the second half, that was something that was really, really good. The ball does come into Madueke, then you ask him, you go and create. But it was so good to see the intention of Arsenal to play those switches, whether it was Zubimendi, whether it's Declan Rice. Both of them were in their bag, in their moment, to try and pick out these switches. That was Zubimendi there. From this scenario, he gets Madueke into a 1v1. And like I said, if Madueke doesn't make the most of it, that's on him. That's not on Arteta. And in this scenario, again, quite unlucky with the dribble in the end. Here is Declan Rice on the football here. And look what his intention is, his body language, his body shape. It sends a message to Madueke already, who does receive it in this position. And again, it's a dream for your winger to receive in these 1v1 situations. It's begging for Madueke to make something out of it. And this is what we were doing a lot in the second half, creating so many solutions and scenarios, whether it was a switch, whether it was off the ball movement, like I said earlier on, whether it was Zubimendi creating passing angles or passing lanes through a little feint to go right, then go left, whether it was small distant carries. Arsenal found the mid-block solutions that I've been crying out for. Here again is another example of Declan Rice on the ball, and look what he creates. A 1v1 situation for Madueke to go inside or outside, and then there's also that underlap option of Merino in there if he does go and make it. So these are solutions that I'm seeing so much progression from Arsenal, which is just really, really good. And of course, there's this one before Eze came off. Declan Rice finding those little underlapping runs. They're so important to break these mid-blocks, off-the-ball runs. And Eze is actually really good at this, but I think he's much better when he starts central, then makes those runs into the wider areas. And in the end, he receives it. Look, that's where you want your winger or your attacking players or your best dribblers to receive, going towards goal, facing the goal. And this is what Arsenal did. It was Declan Rice again, who had a really strong second half after a quite slow start to the first half indeed. And of course, in the end, it was that cross, really lovely cross. Merino's header went straight at the keeper. But again, Merino getting the box, providing box presence was really, really nice to see from an Arsenal standpoint. And of course, the final example when we're talking about Arsenal and analysing this game and showing you that we were actually pretty good. These are only, small examples as well. It's the substitution, the Gyökeres coming off for Trossard, Martinelli on for Eberechi Eze. And this is what I really like to see. And it was Merino a lot in this game. I think this is the third example I'm showing you of Merino playing a progressive pass into a run off the shoulder from the centre forward. And it's things like this, playing it quicker against these defensive structures and these mid-blocks, these high press. If you don't play it quick, you're not going to find joy. You're not going to give your attacking players the ball in really good situations. And this is a really good situation for Trossard, which he doesn't make the most of. You have Martinelli steaming in at the back post. So we've done our job in progressing the ball a lot in the second half, especially in different ways that we haven't seen before, whether it's down to the personnel that we now have or just the intention of the players. It's really, really nice to see. And of course, I have to sort of end on this example for the second goal in particular. And it's Merino yet again receiving it here. You see Atletico Madrid are stuck. They don't know how they've managed to leave this sort of space in there. This midfielder is now stuck whether to stick or to twist into the right position. But these are the sort of solutions that we're creating for ourselves. And it all comes from small movements. Look at where Zubimendi is. This is your player that plays in the pivot, and he's here in the right back position. Look at Timber occupying the same space as well. It's all about fluidity and movement, and Arteta encouraging this against these mid-blocks, against these certain structures. Express yourself, occupy a space, just don't run into each other. And in the first half, we were running into each other's spaces. But the second half, like I'm showing you, we weren't. And here it is. Declan Rice receives on the turn. And his decision-making was really good in the second half. Declan Rice, I've said this multiple times in this video already. He gives it early to Martinelli. And it's up to him to make the solution. And I really did like the cameo appearances from Martinelli and Trossard. Because it's an example of Arsenal's strength in depth. The ability to change profiles mid-game. Trossard allowed us to keep the ball more. With Gyökeres up front, it's more of a runner profile. But with Trossard, he can keep the ball, keep the possession, and link the play a lot better in terms of his intricate nature and his close control. But in this scenario, really nice to see Martinelli go 1v1 and win his 1v1 duel. And the thing is, Martinelli will win his 1v1 duels against physically inferior fullbacks. If the fullback is physically matching Martinelli, then he's going to struggle. And that's why he struggles in the Premier League. And he does so well in the Champions League. So when he's up against these Spanish fullbacks. We've seen him score away to Sevilla, similar type of goal he scored today, or against Atletico Bilbao. We've seen him score against Real Madrid, running behind, because he physically was able to outdo Fran Garcia, physically to outdo this Atletico Bilbao fullback. And in the end, he does that, gets to the byline, plays it into Trossard, and it was a really, really nice finish from Trossard, who again is showing his ability to come off the bench and impact games. But yeah, Gunners, I'm sure I've shown you a lot of examples there. That's not even all of them, of Arsenal finding different solutions against the mid-block in the second half that we haven't seen seasons gone by. And it's so encouraging to see this. And of course, I have to give a shout out to the guys that came off the bench, being finishers, being people that are able to change the game with their different profiles. And I think Arteta recognizing that he can use his squad now, because a year back it could have been Butler or Yadeji and Sterling come off the bench. Now you've got sort of Champions League certified players and Martinelli and Trossard able to impact the game really, really nicely. But yeah, before I end, I just want to also give a sort of big shout out to Mosquera and Gabriel and how good they were in terms of really pressuring in on the opposition's attacks. They nullified everything. And I know I kind of am focusing on the team as a whole in the second half, but I do plan to do individual sort of videos on Mosquera in the future, because I think he was really effective. And Timber as well was really good defensively as a right back, picking up some nice positions in the first half, played some lovely balls into the box. Gyökeres missed a header from one of the crosses. So Arsenal are finding solutions. It's a new team that haven't really played together. So I'd say, based on this and the fact we've got a new team that we're able to create all these scenarios, it can only mean a positive thing going into the rest of this season. But anyway, Gunners, hope you have enjoyed, and on to next time. Peace.